Ah, Nigel. Nigel Frith.
Yes, indeed.
I see you've got a copy of the script of your play, Commedia.
I have indeed, yes, yes.
You put this play on at the Playhouse.
This play we put on, you were in it, in the Playhouse in 1987, yes. And it got a rave review in The Independent and has been forgotten ever since. But just recently we have put this together to relaunch it and to introduce people to the whole art of Commedia dell'Arte, because this play, what I wrote, is based on Commedia dell'Arte scenario. So it's the the actual actors of Commedia dell'Arte in their day improvise their dialogue so that there aren't any scripts, only scenarios.
I think at the time people thought that putting this play on at a major professional theatre, the Oxford Playhouse, was rather foolhardy, because as a style of theatre it's really seldom performed.
Yes, that is true. That's true. The Independent review, which was very nice, it made that point. Who would have thought you could get an audience in for something so antiquated? But it turned out that this plot of a play from the actual Commedia and the style of acting, in fact, just immediately worked with the audience tremendously well, and it exonerated, I think, this.
Well, I think you were entirely justified.
Yes,
I mean, it was a great success.
you know.
I mean, but as I've already said, these plays were evolutionary. I mean, you, on the other hand, have written a script.
Yes.
So, really, any producer has at their disposal, if they sought to acquire it, a ready-made script with all the stock characters and so forth.
Yes, indeed.
Which, of course, can be found on your website, together with the explanatory prologue.
Yes, yes. But the thing that you can't get from reading this book and looking at the pictures and reading the introduction is you can't actually see the movements, and the movements are very important, and so this is why we're doing this introduction to Commedia and the movement of Commedia through the characters to supplement that.
Yes, because I think that the two obvious characteristics of this style of theatre are the use of masks and the movement
and the styles
of the stock characters.
Yes, indeed, yes.
And I think we're going to look at that today.
We're going to look at that today, and what I want to do in this first part and in the second part is to look at some masked characters who are the grotesque characters, but also at some of the unmasked characters who are the more noble, normal people. I mean, I don't know if these come out very well to camera, but you can see here's some of the cast in their separate roles, and you can see some of the characters are masked. He's masked, he's masked, he's masked, but these are not. And these are perfectly normal people. These are grotesque people with the mask. So I thought I'd just demonstrate the range of the sort of grotesque mask characters, and then deal with the sort of movement that would be a movement for
the more elegant
for everybody, and especially the more elegant.
Yeah.
The thing about the movement for the more elegant is it's now plain to me that the movements are just stylized movements of the way the upper classes moved in those days, and so there's a lot in the movement of the noble characters, the lovers, which is really to do with maintaining authority, to look as though you're at ease with yourself, you're an authoritative figure, and you're talking to a group of people and you are including that group in the way you talk. The movements take that into account.
Yes.
And it's the opposite of a modern attitude, which is I'm me, I'm going to be me, whatever, and you can slop around because you're ignoring everybody anyway. You know, this is totally different.
Yes.
If you look at the way a modern Olympic champion will celebrate, you'll go, yeah, I did it, I'm as good as anyone here, you know. Whereas if you look at the way a ballet dancer takes a bow at the end, he's deferring to the audience. He's saying, you've allowed me to perform for you and I'm most grateful, you see. And somehow that makes him look far more beautiful than this
Yes.
triumphing yob.
I don't think too many triumphal Olympians would recognise your imitation, but
Well, I
we
don't know.
take your point.
I'm just fed up with seeing in the papers people with their mouths open about that wine. Right, now,
So are you going to say anything about the masks?
yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce two of the most famous masks and talk a little bit about their characters and also their ancestry. I might as well put this mask on, but I used to give lectures on this when I was a lot younger. Now I'm old and my balance is gone. I might very well fall off this platform, but if I do, that's all in the spirit of Commedia. So, this mask here, you see, is the mask of Pulcinella, and it's a genuine Venetian mask bought in Venice in 1987, and has got particular characteristics. As you can see, a very big nose. But Pulcinella is not just the nose, he's also got a way of moving. And his movements are rather strange. They're very butch and burly on top, but his legs are not at all, are little sort of dinky legs like this. So you've got a very strange character with Pulcinella. He usually wears all white clothing too. Now, Pulcinella is, all these Commedia characters are connected with various places in Italy, and when they improvise in the show, then they make up their own dialogue, they talk in the accent of the places that they are from. So Pulcinella will talk in the accent of a Neapolitan. So he's from Naples, and he's this sort of character. Just remember that he's two types of things: butch, but also scampering about.
Sorry, you said he was from Naples.
He's from Naples.
Yes, which of course is quite well known for a rough element.
Yes, indeed. Yes, way back it's known for a rough element.
And currently.
Yes, yes, it's kept to type, I think. Although maybe in, I mean, it's an old city in Roman times. It was maybe, I think in the Roman times it was probably more well-to-do, because all the nobility from Rome used to go and have their holiday villas in Naples and below.
Yes.
Now this is the little character Arlecchino. You see, he doesn't have a great big conch. It's black, and it's not just black, it's big wrinkles and exaggerated kind of cheekbones and this conch of a nose, and I don't know if you can notice, but it's even got a little sort of black carbuncle there sticking out of its head. Arlecchino is from Bergamo, and his movements, Arlecchino, I mean, I've been looking at pictures of this to try and rehearse for me, and Arlecchino's often got pictures like this, rather a swagger, and he can be like that. He can be rather kind of liquid, but he does have this stick. It's much thicker than this, a bat it's called. And the thing is, this is made of 2 strips of wood, so if you hit anything with it, it makes much more noise than it would if it was just an ordinary stick, because this is what's called a slapstick, and so Arlecchino is the real source of slapstick humour. And sometimes he can be very cunning like this and sort of weasel-like, but other times when Commedia comes on, oh look, Commedia! Oh. And you get the feeling, just by studying his character alone, that you can have movements close to the body, and then you can have movements outside the body. So
But he's
I'd like
become
to,
a character of wider cultural significance. I mean, he's a kind of Puck-like figure, isn't he?
yes. Yes, he is, because you know, he was there in the Commedia dell'Arte shows, but he became a very, very popular character. His costume is instantly recognisable because it's full of little diamond shapes or patches. And
Yes.
it's thought this because he was poor, and so his costume was always patches on it, but the patches got regularised and turned into a harlequin sort of design.
And we see, we can
And
see
this
this in Shakespeare, of course.
And this is the harlequin design here.
You know, this Harlequin character crops up in Shakespeare.
He's sort of there in the servant characters, yes.
Yes, and I noticed that you mentioned that he was from Bergamo,
Bergamo.
and in Midsummer Night's Dream, of course, there is a Bergamasque dance
Yes.
by the Mechanicals.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Shakespeare did know about Commedia dell'Arte because there's a record of a troupe coming from Italy, 1570, and playing in London, the troupe of Drusiano, so he would have known about that.
Furthermore, I would point out that your excellent play is written in verse,
Yes,
of a kind that Shakespeare would have called his own.
yes, very much, very much.
So there is also that link from medieval times.
Yes. Maybe, I'm not so sure about that, but the verse in Shakespeare is interesting because he often uses the verse for the noble characters, the lovers, but not for the grotesque. They can, if you think of Midsummer Night's Dream, nearly everybody speaks in verse. The Mechanicals, who are the sort of mask type characters, they speak in prose.
Yes.
Now, I'll just deal with background, and then I'll just go into the movement a bit more, and that should see me through for the first session. Where did our Commedia dell'Arte come from? As we've discussed in the introduction, which is you can read on the website, thefritharchive.com, in the section marked Commedia, it talks about when Commedia, when we've got evidence that Commedia existed, and from about 1550 you can see that there's a Commedia erudita, which is written by the intellectual people who know Latin and are copying Roman comedies, and then there's the Commedia dell'Arte, which is the improvised comedy, which is already done by the arte, the profession. So how come we know about this in 1550? Was it a medieval invention that then took off and became the big Renaissance type of theatre, or is it older than that? Well, there is some theory that it might be medieval, and Arlecchino is a case in point, because the name Arlecchino, you don't find that in the ancient theatre of the Romans. But in Dante, one of the devils, there's his marvellous scene in the Inferno when these devils are all boiling people in a huge great pot and having a row with themselves and throwing each other in as well. One of the devils is called Hellequin, you know, which is more or less an English word too, a hellion or a hellequin, a person from hell. And it's thought, and in the medieval times, that they had grotesque masks with horns. And it's thought that Arlecchino could be a survival of a medieval devil from a mystery play. And this little bobble that I drew your attention to, which looks just like a carbuncle on his head, is in fact the remains of what used to be horns. So there is a theory that Commedia might have come from medieval times, but I don't think it's a very good one. The thing is, if you look at Pulcinella, this is where the classic proof that Commedia existed in Roman times. Pulcinella, that mask, there is a surviving kind of there's a surviving kind of objet d'art of a mask that people would have as an ornament in their homes, and it is of exactly like this, with a dirty great big conch, but also a chin. And this was a character in what was called the Attilan farces, and Attila is a place near Naples, and the Neapolitans were famous for developing this style of farce in Roman times, Attilan farce. The thing was, we've got no record of it because they never wrote them down, they improvised it. But one of the characters was called Maccus, and he's in everything. Maccus goes to war, Maccus invents the laundry mat, Maccus does this and that, and he has his adventures throughout. But he also appears as, sometimes he's called the chicken man, which in Old Latin is Pullus Gallienus, and so they think that because the mask is the split image of Pulcinella, and the name Pullus Gallienus sounds like Pulcinella, that this shows that somehow the Commedia must have existed in Roman times and come all the way through to the Renaissance.
And of course anybody who goes to the seaside will recognise Mr. Punch.
Mr. Punch indeed, as was shown in our play, because he not only is Mr. Punch, but he runs a Punch and Judy show. So I'll just finish by explaining a bit more about the movements and showing you why when Arlecchino's being cunning, he does these sort of movements, and when he's happy at seeing Columbina, ha-ha, he's like this. And this is all from the general sort of movement that was employed in the time and eventually became systematized in ballet. People in ballet do tend to say, yes, ballet was first the Commedia dell'Arte movement, and then it got systematized by Louis XIV at the École de la Musique, and then it became the basis of ballet. And in ballet, as in Commedia, there are these conventions. First of all, you have to stand up very straight. You've got the ballet positions. I'll deal with them in part 2. But standing up straight means it's as though you've got a line, a piece of string going through your skull that is just holding you upright, so that you're upright, but you're upright in a very kind of relaxed way because you're as if dangling on a piece of string. So once you assume that position, you can feel it in your whole personality. It makes you much more sort of objective and kindly and well disposed.
Uplifted.
Uplifted. Le mot juste. Similarly, when you're talking to people, if you go, oh, I don't know about that, you see, and you, let me show you. Well, here's my picture. You know, if you have your arms close to your body all the time, it's a signal that you're holding things back. You're being, you know, rather kind of cunning and
furtive.
Furtive, exactly. Thanks. And so that's in the characters, and we'll deal with them in the second part. That becomes a big feature. If your arms are wide out like this, you're totally innocent, but on the other hand, you're a bit too innocent for your own good. You know, people who go, hello, you know, they're asking for a punch in the face from ill-disposed people. But that's another way of behaving, and you find there are characters like that. But the lovers are supposedly beautiful examples of young people, and they have this movement, you see. So their arms are neither too far in nor too far out, and they're nice and rounded, and their heads are very upright, and when they look somewhere they turn the whole head, they don't go like that, They turn the whole head intentionally, you see. And also when they talk to people, if they're talking to somebody here, their arms are like this, and their head is upright. It means that the rest of the group don't feel themselves excluded. So it's very good for people in authority to keep people on side, you see, because if you just turn to somebody and go, everybody else suspects you. So that's the sort of noble stance. And when they bow out, they use their noble stance, and that's how they perform what in ballet is called a reverence. And with that, I end part one.